Muted. There you go.
Right, we are live. It is Wednesday. It is 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Welcome to Office Hours. Hey, Andrew, how are things?
You said it's Wednesday, but doesn't it feel like it should be Friday already by now?
Very much Friday. It's a busy week. We are running the Intune Masterclass this week and puzzling the schedule with 8 other instructors. It's 8 with us, but it's a bit of a challenge. It's like a mini conference, but virtual.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a fun week, though. I mean, you and I were just talking here a little bit ago about, not only do we get the opportunity to talk about what we and the other instructors know, but man, we've had such an engaging group this week. We've had some fantastic questions, and this afternoon they were able to teach us some things and ask us some questions that we hadn't thought about. And it's one of my favorite things about doing what we do. Really,
Yeah, we ended up with homework even.
Yep. Surprise, surprise.
All right. Shall we get to it?
Oh, we shall. It's been another busy week in the community for sure.
All right. So now you're going to ask me to share your screen. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I think that would work.
All right. Let's see what I can do here.
See, I still had this up. We'll start off with the most important, the Zootopia 2 teaser trailer coming out. I don't know how much crossover there is between that and Intune or ConfigMgr, but
I mean, they have to be managed somehow, I guess.
Exactly. I'm excited for it. We have the first one came out almost 10 years ago, and the kids love that movie, and I love it. So, anyways, that's neither here nor there. Some great stuff coming out of the community this week, as usual. So Jurgen wrote a blog post here about some of the new settings that were added to the latest Windows 11 24H2 security baseline in Intune. But these are not released as a new version of the baseline. These settings are only added when you create a new policy or edit one that already is existing. But as always, great job here on sort of summarizing all of the settings that were added, as well as what their defaults are. So I wanted to call this out for those that may have missed that in that latest service release. Now, I haven't, knock on wood, in any of my organizations, personally have not seen this issue yet, but patches are just starting to roll out over the last day or two here. But some of you may have seen that the May cumulative update for devices that have Intel Trusted Execution Technology enabled on 10th generation or later Intel vPro processors, that's a mouthful, are experiencing an issue where you might see a blue screen or you end up at the BitLocker recovery screen, which at best is an annoyance. At worst, you might have some issues, and hopefully you have your BitLocker recovery keys saved off to the correct place. All is not lost, however. There was an out-of-band update that was released a couple of days ago. And so we can see that down here. There is a link over to that update on the Microsoft Update catalog. But earlier today, Johan and I were talking about software updates in our course, and I did notice if we take a look at our quality updates or expedited updates in Intune. So if I go, I've got a policy here that I can just go in and edit. If we take a look at the properties here, it does look like that update is available to push out via Intune expedited updates. So thank you to our friend Brian Dam for pointing out that this out-of-band update was made available. So I wanted to get that out there. I will post a link both to the original known issue documentation here, as well as the out-of-band update. I'll make sure those get posted this evening. And then last but not least, came across this tweet from Ugur earlier today. Released a new update for his popular Intune Assignment checker script, added support for Autopilot and some of the related items like enrollment status page profiles, as well as some endpoint security settings, and just some additional parameters here you can see on his checklist. If you haven't used this before, it's a fantastic PowerShell script that sort of just helps you report on and see where you have resources assigned in Intune. Very helpful script. I try to keep this available in across all my workstations where I might be managing some Intune related items. So that was what I had for today, Johan. I think you might be muted. There you go.
I think I might be muted for the second time in like 10 minutes. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, I do have a couple of things I stumbled across. First out was a little article by Damien here that I don't think we shared before. Let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen here.
I think you can do it. I'm confident. There you go.
Yeah. So over here, Damien posted a nice little script that can give you a notification or basically send an email if you stumble across users that are active but are missing a license in your tenants. I thought that was pretty clever way of doing automation, so I figured it was worth mentioning. And no, I do not need to sign in. Thank you very much. I'm good. But that was that one. And then, this ViaMonstra people, very strange. But we did an event last week, highlights from MMS. And that recording is available. So if you happen to miss that event, go to our community or check it out on YouTube, whatever you like. The recording is available there. We spent about 40 minutes-ish discussing the conference, our favorite things and what we learned, and what I learned remotely, I should say, because you were there in person. I wasn't.
Sadly,
yes. Then Peter van der Woede had a blog post regarding what he refers at scareware, basically blockers in Microsoft Edge. I figured I should share that link. This one here might be interesting to read. And that was pretty much I had in terms of updates. Now, do we have any questions?
Oh, yes, we do. A few hellos. Hello to everybody that is joining us. I'll call those out first. So the first question we have here is from Matt. Johan, can you easily tell me what Windows 11 23H2 update package from Windows 11, how many files and how big is that package? I think updating from Windows 10 to Windows 11 23H2.
So that is going to be depending on how that upgrade is driven. If you just use a sequence with an upgrade package, it's going to be pretty much the size of that ISO file. So if you, let's see what I have here. Go to ISO folder. Here is one. The April version, I haven't actually checked if the May one was released yet. It's actually a good thing to check for. It's usually a week after Patch Tuesday, and it's been a week after Patch Tuesday. It's been, in fact, 9 days after Patch Tuesday. So I'm curious to if the May release is available. And it is. Wonder if they would list the size here. Nope. But I can start the download and it will tell me. 6.7 gigabyte is that package. You might be able to reduce it by removing the indexes that you're not interested in, so maybe shave off 500 meg or so. But that package is going to be roughly 6 gigabyte. If you're looking for the update package itself, if I go to a ConfigMgr server that happen to have upgrades being downloaded to it, I should be able to see that size. Don't have, it doesn't show the content size there. This is a slightly older one, but it should give a good indication. Oh, actually, I have the latest one downloaded. I just noticed. Because it does show the size here. I'm not entirely sure what that will be if you add them up together. But the point with these guys is they are typically lying to you because there are hard links in the back end. I would guess 10 gig or so, 11 perhaps. Give or take. So anything between 6 and 11.
All right. Thank you for that, sir. Matthew is asking us, during OSD, the system is failing to join domain with a specific error code here. Net join domain attempt failed, 0x52E and 0x775, and the join domain account gets locked. When I set the account in the task sequence and test the connection, it is successful. Any ideas on what to look out for?
I would guess in the no domain hardening, but we can look up that error message or error code. It's just I do recognize it. So a good old calculator. Was it 52E?
Yep.
If we convert that over to 52E, convert it over to decimal, it gives you 1326. I bet you that's a fat-fingered password. Let's help message. Yeah, that's a fat-fingered password. I've seen that happen if you like copy and paste sequences. Sometimes you have to just retype the password in the sequence. But basically, if you have this and then let's set up log file, the password is incorrect. And yeah, if you deploy enough many machines, that's going to be locked out. Then you have to unlock it and try again. So.
All right. Matt's asking, Windows 11 upgrade from CMG. Does that mean the file extensions are going to be different?
Depends. A sequence can do both upgrade packages as well as OS upgrade packages. And an OS upgrade package will be the full content of the ISO, meaning the web file and all the dependencies. Otherwise, it's going to be an ESD file coming together with the other update packages.
All right. And then Jordan was asking, can you use the Intune assignment checker to find all items a particular security group is assigned against? And if not, how would you? And while you were talking about some of those things, some of these other questions, Johan, I was actually running the assignment checker script. If you'd like to switch over to my screen.
I do.
Perfect. So, went ahead and downloaded the latest version because it was literally fresh this afternoon. At least the announcement was. And when you run the script, you basically get this main menu here. So you can check a few different things. First of all, you can check individual user assignments, group assignments, or device assignments. We also have some other options here that we can show all policies. We can show any assignments that are assigned to all users or all devices, and then some other options here as well. A cool one, for example, is showing any policies that I have in my tenant that don't have any assignments. Might help me clean some things up. So if we wanted to check for a specific group, we can just select option 2 here, and then either provide a group name or the object ID for a specific group. So I happen to have a group that's just called production devices, chosen from this list. You can see here in the background, I've got a device up that I just checked the group membership of that because I knew I would have some things assigned to it. And what the script does is goes through and checks to see any of these types of policies that are assigned to this group. And then we'll get a nice little report here in just a moment that we can then export to CSV if we want to. So it just so happened that the group that I chose does have some required, or at least one required app assigned to it and a couple of different available apps assigned to it. But you can see all the other categories that are available that it looks through. If I had any remediations assigned to that group, any platform scripts, settings catalog policies, a whole bunch of different things here. This is going to help you report out on all that. So this is why I find this so useful, because there isn't a very easy way to do that, if there is at all, natively within the platform. So the script is super helpful. So I hope that answers your question, Jordan. Yeah, looks like it. Good. I see a positive feedback there. Thanks. All right. Matthew's got a question around installing an application in a task sequence. And the box is checked to allow the install during a task sequence. Getting error 87D00269, management point not found. Could this also be because the device is not domain joined? Muted again.
Third time is the charm. Yeah, it can absolutely be because it didn't join the domain. If your ConfigMgr environment is set up to query Active Directory for publishing information basically about the management point, for worker machines, you may have to provide what management point to use. Otherwise, applications will fail. It's basically it cannot find the management point at that point. Might have an example. Let's see here. I was playing around with some build and capture sequences, and they are indeed workgroup machines. And even though sysprep currently have an issue, I run the install application step here, and what I had to do to get that to work was, of course, to specify my DNS suffix together with what management point to use when I install the client. Otherwise, it won't find it. But there is nothing to ask. So, in addition to boundaries, groups, and whatnot being configured correctly, you need to tell the client where to talk to. Otherwise, you get an error. All right.
All right. Zach's got a question over here on YouTube. Is Intel Trusted Execution worth turning on? I know security, but in an enterprise environment, should we have this turned on? For Dell, I don't believe it comes on by default, so we were not affected. And so this is related to that Windows 10 blue screen.
On top of my head, I don't know which Windows security feature is actually using that function or hardware piece.
Let's see here.
I don't find anything immediate in my...
No, not specifically. It's, let's see. So it's funny, most of what you find is it's beneficial where security is a high priority, such as business or enterprise settings, but for what features?
No, I do not know. If anyone happen to know, let us know.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna show this one on the screen. Zach can yell at me later. So if anyone have any ideas on this one, by all means, let us know in the chat. We'll be happy to share that with you guys.
Yeah, I agree. He just followed up here. I think we're on the same page. And I do want to call out, I agreed too. Zach made a comment here. That was amazing how quickly you determined that username and password error question. That was worth the join office hours here too. I've never seen anyone do that before. I've known you a long time, Johan, and I've never even seen you do anything like that. That was awesome.
Oh, that's old school stuff from back in the days.
That there's every time you say that you've been doing this for a couple more years than I have, that's the example right there. That's the proof.
I have here's an example log file from 2015. If I open that with something clever, this is where you have that exact error code, meaning password is not okay. But these days, as mentioned, it could very well be
the hardening.
Yeah, because they've done it in phases. This one, where you these days have to configure additional policies if you want to have the same account joining or reusing the same computer account multiple times. Another option is, of course, to nuke the object before you redeploy it again, but that's also a bit annoying at times. But this article summarizes that behavior. But that error code is, when you see that, it's typically that somewhere that password gets changed, either by how it was stored in the sequence, or possibly a script that sets that variable to something else. But I would pick one of the two here, either because of this or because the password is simply not right.
All right. Matt's asking, what is your best way to push Windows 11 to Windows 10 devices as an update package or a task sequence? In this context, speaking about faster ways for users working from home.
I'm a big fan of sequences, simply because it's so easy to divide it into phases. Where the first phase is where we do the validation and pre-caching of content, and this is something we do in the background. We don't interrupt the users for everything. And once we verify that the devices are happy, or at least have a fighting chance to do the upgrade, then we start that upgrade. At that point, the content is already out there. It becomes more challenging if users are on VPN only. Sequences will just work remarkably well when they are on a cloud management gateway, because they don't need a VPN client to reconnect after the fact. Should you be in a scenario where you try to do over VPN only type upgrades, I would recommend looking into another Johan, the Mr. Cervelius from Sweden. Well, I'm also from Sweden, but a different Johan. They have a solution called the IPU installer. It's basically an app that you put together and run, and that works pretty good for VPN deployments. Unless you somehow can configure your security team to establish a device tunnel for you without authentication, and well, they usually don't like that.
All right. Question from over on YouTube around the ConfigMgr release 2503. Do you know how do we know what fixes have been made other than those disclosed for 2503? I saw that there were more than 250 bug fixes, but the release notes only show a very small amount of fixes.
I don't know. Send an email to Danny. I haven't seen the full list published anywhere. But just a comment that one of the ConfigMgr team's Twitter accounts or X accounts mentioned. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know. I know they might break Pixie, which was fixed.
Yeah, there was, on the initial page for 2503, there is a link that takes you to about 24 or so fixes. But beyond that, I think there are a lot that just simply haven't been made public.
Do you happen to have it up on your screen, sir?
I certainly can. Now I do. So this was the summary of changes. I don't know if it's quite 24, but no, it doesn't look like it. But these were sort of what they must have considered the ones that were significant and meant to be published publicly. But yeah, to the point, it sounds like there were many other bug fixes that didn't actually make it into the release notes.
Well, I know there was a good chunk for ARM, but I don't see any mentioning here.
Oh, just this one on software metering, it looks like.
Yeah. Nope, sorry, don't have a on that one.
No, this is the most extensive list I've been able to find.
I mean, the team rarely publishes every bug that gets fixed.
Mm-hmm. All right. Got another question here around ConfigMgr. Have you experienced inbox processing latency when using management points that are in other regions or slower networks than the primary site? So, a recommendation to have MPs as close to the primary site.
Did you see that question?
Was right above Zach's comment on the username and password error.
My restream chat is giving me an argument. Let's see here.
You want me to read it again?
Yeah.
So, have you experienced inbox processing latency when using management points that are in other regions or slower networks than the primary site? I've seen a recommendation to have MPs as close to the primary site.
Not really, no. Not that I can think of. Other than trying to keep them to a minimum, don't have like 16 of them. Unless you absolutely must, and very few organizations must.
All right.
I did find the tweet though with the fixes comment. I figured I can share that one.
Oh, nice. The 250 fixes.
Yes. See why it decided to. There we go. That was the reason. I have a couple of replies underneath that I don't see when I are not logged into to Twitter. Let's see if I can get a screenshot over.
Ah, 350 bugs.
Yeah. Because there was some lovely comments underneath. I thought was pretty cool from Dietmar here. Basically, oh, fantastic. I hope the Windows Key team can see this. A new version with only bug fixes. But yeah.
All right. So Matt's asking if we can log into Defender for Endpoint and see if the permissions and device groups are there, or if this has moved over to Defender XDR. So I think, unless I missed something, pretty much I'm only logging in at security.microsoft.com now, which should have endpoint and identity and everything in there. And I do see, if you want to share my screen, Johan, I've got that page up. I'm not sure if it's the exact page that Matt's asking about, but this is the page that I've been going to for a while for all of my Defender needs. So you can see here, I've got my Defender for Endpoint stuff. I've got my Defender for Identity here. So this is the Defender XDR page. And I've got permissions down here. and there are my device groups. So this is where I would go to see that. Right. Do you have something?
Yeah, there was a question from Stefan here earlier that I accidentally even showed on the screen here, but it was regarding what folks are using for remote admin access to macOS devices that are managed through Intune. I don't know. Where is Dean when you need one?
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, remote help is available if you have remote help licensing through the Intune suite, or if you're in education environment. So I know that's one option.
If anyone happens to know of a good remote admin access solution to macOS management or macOS devices in Intune, please put it in the chat. We'll share it.
Then we had a question here from Shri over on YouTube, and actually Jeff commented doing our job for us. So Shri asked in Autopilot how many apps should be added. So in this case, during the enrollment status page, and Jeff mentioned that you'll want to add as few as possible during ESP. The more you add, the more potential for issues, and the longer the process. Totally agree.
Yeah, that's a one that is worth sharing for sure. This is the word. 4, 5, 6 is usually what we see organizations are ending up using, and that works fairly well unless they are like massive applications. If you have really large applications, the only way to get that reliable is to leverage local cache servers. Otherwise, they will time out.
So a couple common ones, if you're just trying to keep it low, security agents, if you have any out there, or VPN clients. I think those are probably the most common things.
Yeah.
But beyond that, recommend just letting applications come down later.
Yep.
All right. Mike's asking over on YouTube, migrating my ConfigMgr server soon to new hardware. I've done it before, but it's been a little while. Any special considerations, aka landmines, I should try to avoid when migrating with co-management and CMG?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just switching over to a completely different VM platform, then it's practically a backup restore of that site server. If it's just a live migration to a different host, shouldn't be any much to think of, but it sounded like it was to something very different based on the question. I did put together like a high-level overview at one point, a guide what to think about. I can share this at least. It's not that exact scenario, but it's similar in concept. The same way as you would upgrade the OS, but basically if you do a backup restore to a different box, this would be the same concept, because in this scenario, you have an old server with an old OS and you want to just migrate that over to a new server with a new OS, but you want to keep everything as is, and then you can follow these steps here. Because ConfigMgr does support in-place upgrade of the OS, but I happen to like the backup restore option. It's such a clean way of dealing with it, and it's only take a day or two to do, so it's not the end of the world. But as always, learn about this in a lab first. play around, do it so many times as you actually nail it, and then go ahead and do the production one. You don't want to learn about it in production.
Definitely not. Amir had a follow-up comment here on remote desktop for macOS. In his organization, they're using TeamViewer. Ninja One also gives remote shell access, but both are pricey.
Yeah, I remember we used to run TeamViewer in our lab, and just for Andrew and I and another user, it was basically $2,000 a year, which I thought was a little pricey for 3 people.
I'd say so.
We stopped using that one.
To the point that remote help was cheaper.
Yeah, and that one is expensive. So
Exactly.
yeah.
All right. Any recommendations for level 4 or 500 blog posts about universal print and using the connector with no built-in universal print enabled printers?
I haven't the foggiest. I managed, and I'm proud of this, to stay away from printing for the past 2 decades or so, maybe a decade and a half, perhaps.
Not everybody's so lucky.
No, I know, but I wouldn't know.
So that would imply at least at some point in your career you did have to deal with printers.
Yeah. When I started my career 30 years ago, that was a lot of printers. And the noisy ones too, they're not matrix printers.
It's like a rite of passage, I think, that you have to deal with printers if you're going to be in IT, at least for a little bit.
Well, it does, I can't figure out the English word for it, but basically, soldiers that they go to Navy SEAL training, and they always the core team that survives that or manages to pass it.
Yeah.
The one that didn't, they were the ones that didn't do the printer stuff.
So true. So true.
That's the IT edition of Navy SEALs is have you successfully dealt with printers
Right.
and survived? Yeah.
And if you have, very impressive. All right. So another question here on YouTube. Only after a Windows Intune enrollment, a reset PC from company portal generates a blue screen during OS install. Specifically, system thread execution not handled. BIOS is set to AHCI, not RAID. This is happening even on VMs.
I have not seen a wipe generating a blue screen unless it was a driver issue. Basically, a driver either added that was not okay or a missing driver in WinRE. That will have, if you get the memory dump from it, you can most likely figure out what it was. If that happens during WinRE, then it's challenging. Because WinP is basically WinRE, and WinRE by default doesn't do crash dumps, but you can convince it to do crash dumps. I wrote a post on how to do it for WinPE, and basically what registry keys you need to enable to have the crash being saved. I have not tested this with WinRE, but I would assume they would be the same. If the blue screen fails in regular Windows, then there should be a memory.dmp file that you can analyze in a WinDebug or whatever we talked about the other week. There was another service we could use also. Forgot to mention that. But anyhow, yeah. That would be something.
All right. So I was just reading, there's a little bit of back and forth here on an issue that Benny's seeing. They have an issue where 20 users have reported that they are logging in with a temp profile. There is no .bak in registry. All we can see is event logs showing ntuser.dat failed to load. Raised a case with MS, but they're not sure what's going on. And it started happening over the last 6 weeks. Traditional domain join. Has anyone else seen this? Jeff had a couple of comments here on things to check. Could be corrupted ntuser.dat. Dirty unload may trigger this behavior. Try to load the registry hive in regedit to see if they load cleanly.
The only thing I can think of is antivirus software locking it or breaking it.
Yeah, Benny did mention they are using Defender for Endpoint, but not seeing any logs pointing to ntuser.dat getting blocked. All laptops mixed remote and in office have a VPN device tunnel set up, so that could also be a factor.
Yeah, it's nothing I don't have any other ideas on that one, I'm afraid.
Appreciate Jeff offering some suggestions here in the chat, though. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Let's see. I'm just scrolling. I know there's a couple of questions that I've skipped over. I want to make sure we get to. Matt's asking, have you ever faced an issue with Zscaler blocking Windows 11 upgrade from downloading?
I've seen it blocking DO, and DO is downloading Windows 11, so yes. Our friends over at MMS Endpoint Manager had a post just at some point last year. I know it was Bruce was involved in that research also. But basically this one here, if DO is blocking or not working as expected, that can certainly cause an upgrade to fail. Because I've seen so many times now where large DO packages is breaking because of the DO being throttled too much or just timing out because basically network issues. So that would be a good thing. And I mean, not sure if you guys noticed because we tweeted about it a lot when this update came along. But if we do a 2025-05 cumulative update, maybe throw in a Windows 11 into the mix. I mean, the new updates are downright massive. This one here, I don't remember if we showed that last week or not, but this is a monthly patch.
Mm-hmm.
The size of Windows itself. And that one will be downloaded with DO if using Intune. And then you compare it with the 23 H2 update, which is the one above, just shy of a gig. And this is all AI updates. Large AI updates. So it'll be fun this year.
To say the least.
Yeah.
It's funny, I saw Zscaler, and I know that, you and Bruce and Morris have walked with Zscaler so that I could run away from environments that actually has it.
Well, it's a pretty popular one. I mean, it's good, but it's just hard to get right. There are so many policies, especially for peering, that needs to be set up.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned earlier today your blog post on how much just even Windows is connecting to all of these different endpoints and everything when you're first bringing up Windows for the first time. And not to pick on Zscaler, Matt just happened to mention Zscaler, but all of these proxies and things like Jurgen mentioned yesterday, folks that have like DNS ad blockers, like a Pi hole or something like that. those things are presenting real challenges to us trying to manage devices that are out, at home, for example.
Yeah.
But they're things that we have to deal with.
Yeah. Put it this way, if you don't think peering is a good idea, think again. It's a large patch.
Yep. All right. So let's see. I lost my spot here. Oh, here we go. What do you do when troubleshooting 16389 errors for application installation during OSD? We tend to get that error on and off for Office install when only using setup.exe to download the install files. That specific error not coming to mind.
Not me neither, I'm afraid.
Let's see.
You say 16389?
Yes.
Well, it seems to be related to actually updates.
I also found a post on the Windows Noob forum.
Is that the one from 2015?
It is, but it continued on through. There's posts from 2017, 2019, 21, 20. About every 2 years, somebody posts to it.
You have it up on the screen, sir?
Yes.
All right, let me...
So I don't know if there are any actual resolutions in here, but at least a couple of things to check for. Pretty much does seem like it's all around application deployment. In this person's case, Task Sequence Engine starts the next installation before the current one is finished.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably try to switch it over to legacy package as a first troubleshooting attempt instead of having it as an app model app and see if that fixes it. Otherwise, there might have to be some scripting involved to make sure that previous processes has finished before it continues to the next one. Office is a tricky one that way. I'm sorry, don't have any better reply than that.
Oh, we could post this at least to see if maybe some of these things to check on.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. I think we're getting caught up now. Awesome
Yay.
Questions today. Is there any advantage or benefit to using IPU installer in Intune environments?
Not that I can think of. I mean, Intune by nature only requires internet access from the client. It's not depending on finding a management point to continue with anything. So I can't think of any.
All right. And then Tim had some more information around Intel TXT. That BIOS setting is needed for memory integrity in Windows 11. We enabled Device Guard and Credential Guard, which is likely why memory integrity is active. Right.
Ah, beautiful. I'm going to show that on the screen. Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate it.
That makes sense. That's what I was trying to look for. I figured one of the guards would require it.
All right, good to know.
Yeah.
Hey, we
Tim?
picked up something new today. Beautiful. For the second time today, even.
Yeah. Love it.
For example, I learned that if you don't have any Intune scope tags configured at all, it doesn't show up in the wizard at all. It broke my carefully crafted guide. Very, very upsetting.
But that's one of the interesting things I've found. You've been an instructor for a long time for a lot of different things, and just over the last few years that I've been with you here, that's one of the interesting things that I've found is that we have labs that have been persistent for literal years now. And there's so many things that Microsoft changes, especially with cloud platforms, new security changes in tenants or new UI changes in Intune or what have you, that we simply just don't pick up necessarily because we're working in labs or in tenants that have been around for a long time. And it was really interesting to see that earlier.
Yeah, I learned that filters was renamed to assignment filters. I missed that memo somewhere. And I even talked to someone from the documentation team at last MMS, and they basically gave up on screenshots on the Microsoft site because it was hard for them to keep them updated. Like, yep, I feel your pain.
Yep.
Because we have like one class or course. I can deal with that for every time we run it, but imagine having to do that for every single feature in the platform. That'll be fun.
Well, even small things. I mean, like you mentioned, assignment filters. We were talking about Autopilot yesterday, and when you assign a deployment profile, it used to go from not assigned to pending to assigned. And now I believe it goes from not assigned to assigning to assigned. And even just that small change. I've got an old screenshot that you've seen many times, Johan, that is technically out of date now.
Yep. Fun
Just
stuff.
one word changed. All right. Oh, you know what? I did. There is another question here from Benny. If we go completely cloud only, can you see any reason as to why we would need to keep the on-prem domain?
Yes. Yes.
What do you
If
think?
you want to continue to use ConfigMgr for imaging and imaging only, ConfigMgr requires a domain. Technically, I learned that Kim Up Alphonse, one of the MVPs, actually managed to get the ConfigMgr site server to run against the cloud-hosted Active Directory. That is not the supported scenario. So for that reason, yes, you would keep a domain around. But that will be the most easy to manage domain that you ever have in your life, because it's going to have like 5 service accounts. That's it. That you use for imaging.
Yep.
Or maybe even no service accounts. With domain without users and devices? Heck yeah.
So simple.
Yeah. Remember a quote from when I was in college. It was from the Bastard Operator from Hell text series. Basically, it says, "My job is to have the network running smooth, and without users, it is running smooth."
Can't argue that.
Nope. I like that. Those BOF series. That was fun. Also before your time, I think. Or maybe it was in the beginning of your time. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, the beginning of my career was also smack dab in the middle of college, so I don't know that I retained everything from right then.
There is an archive for it. I just found it. Huh, interesting.
Oh, nice.
The buff archive. There you go. All right.
So let's see. It looks like we had one last question come in from Jordan that I wanted to touch on. If you're hybrid without ConfigMgr, what do you require to go Intune only with no hybrid? Would it be Cloud Kerberos Trust? Yes, if you want to go fully cloud native with your systems management, but you still have on-prem or legacy domain joined Kerberos and things like that, resources that you have to access, and you want single sign-on, yes, Cloud Kerberos Trust.
That was actually it was the guy behind Graph. Not Graph, the X-ray stuff.
Merrill Fernando?
Yes, they did. Oh, that was brilliant. Let me share that one. Here. They did a podcast, almost hour long. Basically, everything you need to know about accessing on-premises resources using Kerberos Trust.
Nice. Is that the most recent episode?
Must be. I saw it just the other week. Yeah, 4 days ago. I'd say it's reasonably recent.
More homework for me. I need to go read that or listen to that because that is a huge topic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, we're at 5:32.
Time flies. All right.
Yes, it does.
That means we have to go back to here and say thank you for everyone who joined us and took part of the discussion here today. Fantastic. We love it. And we hope to see you again next Wednesday.
Just real quick, Johan, somebody asked if these links will be put in the description. Yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
That's where you'll find everything. So on that note, thank you, Johan. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and hope to see you next week.
All right.